How to shoot with a manual lens on your Sony a6000. What is good, YouTube? It's that one camera guy back at it again with another tutorial for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at a manual aperture, manual focus lens and how to use it on your Sony a6000. You're going to find out it's not really difficult at all. Now, this is a beginner's video. It's not for advanced users or seasoned veterans that shoot with film cameras and prime lenses and a manual aperture, manual focus glass. You're going to be bored to death because I'm not going to be covering anything more that you already know. But if you're just starting out and you don't know a whole lot about your camera, this is a really great video to check out. I'm going to show you how to use your Sony a6000, take advantage of the focus peaking, the focus magnifier option, and illustrate to you that it's really simple to do. And that you're going to be able to save a lot of money, but also get a great learning tool in this actual lens. Now, I do recommend that you watch the previous two videos that I posted about the Sony a6000. I cover manual exposure, shutter speed, aperture, ISO, and then in the other video I cover stuff like maximum aperture, focusing, minimum focusing distance, and I cover ways on how to use your camera and how to set up your camera properly. So if you come into this video without having watched that, this might be a little confusing to you at first. But I do recommend you check those videos out first and then come back to this one and you'll be better prepared. So I am going to go over some of the basic parts of a manual focus, manual aperture lens. We won't go into too much detail on it, but I'm just going to cover enough so that you can get started and start having some fun. And other than that, if you're excited about this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, drop a comment in the bottom, and let's get started. Alright, so the gear I'm going to be using is obviously the Sony a6000. If you got one, great. Now, I'm going to be using this lens here. It's a Meike lens. It's from a third-party vendor. It's a 35mm f1.7. So if you take a look, we covered lens information in the previous video, so make sure you check it out. So f1.7, 35mm, 49mm filter thread, and then our minimum focusing distance is roughly 1 foot or 0.3 meters. Pretty simple. And on the lens, let's take a look. It has a metal mount, so pretty good construction. It has some heft to it. It's built well, feels really solid. The aperture ring that's right here is very smooth. And then you have your focus ring here, which is not bad as well. It's pretty smooth as well. Its focus throw is decent. And if you're coming from a fully electronic lens, it may kind of shock you a little bit, but it's pretty good. You know, you have a lot of granular control over this focus ring and also the aperture as well. Let's go ahead and explain why you might want to consider this lens over this one. This is the 35 f1.8 optical steady shot lens. Let's look at the lens information there. E-mount, f1.8, 35mm, OSS for optical steady shot, 0.3 meters or 0.98 feet, 49mm filter thread. So these two lenses are almost exactly the same in terms of its features. 35mm, f1.8, f1.7 maximum aperture, minimum focusing distance of about 1 feet. They're almost exactly the same, these two lenses. The only difference is that this is an electronic lens. So take a look. This one has electronic chips. This one doesn't. This one communicates the lens information like the aperture, focus, and all of that stuff. And the camera will communicate with this. If you take a look, you see here, you see those little tiny dots right there? That matches up with it, and it transmits that information. Now, with this lens, this is a manual focus lens. There is absolutely no electronic chips on here. So we control aperture and we control focus. We have to do all of that. And if you've watched the past videos we've done, you'll realize it's not that hard to do. And that's what we're going to be covering and discussing in this video. So we have to control the aperture ourselves, and we have to control the focus as well. Take a look inside. Here is our focus, our aperture blade or aperture there. And as we go to our maximum, here's our maximum aperture, f1.7, our minimum aperture, f22. This lens also has those same aperture blades. So take a look inside. Right here, this is better. But I can't change it. It won't change. Now, if I obviously mount this camera to the a6000, so I went and mounted it. Here it is. Let me show you how it changes. Here it is. There we go. See, take a look. I'm using the camera to change the aperture. That's it. So the camera is what's controlling the aperture on this. And we can also control the focus with the camera. The difference is with this guy, we have to do all the work. But that's not a problem. So again, this is $450 US to get this lens. This is only 88 bucks on Amazon. Very big difference in cost, and they both are going to pack a punch. This one, the biggest advantage, it has optical steady shot, and it's a completely electronic lens. So if you do a lot of video and you want continuous autofocus, then this is the lens you need to get. But if you're just starting off and you just want to learn photography and you want a really nice lens that has good control over the depth of field, this is a great lens, and I'm going to show you how to use it today, so you're very lucky. All right, so again, why this lens? f1.7 is going to let a lot of light into this camera. f1.7. You're going to be able to like take photos in slightly dimmer environments or a dark room like this. And also you have control over depth of field. Like I said earlier, you can get that creamy out of focus images with this lens. When you compare it to your kit lens that came with your camera, the 1650, so let's take a look. Here it is. It is E-mount, 3.5 to 5.6, PZ, which someone corrected me last time means power zoom, 16 to 50 millimeters, optical steady shot lens, and it has a 4.5 filter thread, and here's our minimum focusing distance information. So at 35 millimeters with this lens, it's at f5.6. So comparing f1.7 to 5.6, that's almost, I would say, what, almost over 2 stops of light difference between these two lenses here. So this is a very exciting lens, so let's continue on. So what we're going to look at right now is actually the focus distance scale on this lens to try and understand what it's doing. If you rotate this focus ring, you'll see some numbers here on the actual lens. Now, the top number is in feet and the bottom number is in meters, and they sort of show you the key numbers that might be important, like 1 foot, 0.3 meters, 0.4 meters, 1.5 feet, 2 feet, 0.6, 0.83, 1.2, and so forth. And it continues on. But what does this even mean? Like, what does the focus distance scale mean at all? So I have my camera attached, and I'll show you a different view here. So let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and set my camera's aperture to 1.7. So it's at 1.7. So it's wide open. And then up here we have our focus distance scale, like I said earlier. I'm going to set it to 1. And by the way, let me explain something. This little tiny dot that you see, there's a little diamond. This diamond represents kind of the point at which this number works. So if you want to be at f1.7 or f2 at 0.8 or f4, the number must line up to the diamond. So if I rotate it, so let's say I go to f4, right there. Now the lens is roughly at f4 because it lines up with the diamond. Now my focus distance scale works the same way, or this focus ring. If I want to focus at 1.5 feet, I rotate it to the diamond, or 2 feet away, I rotate to this, 3 feet, and so forth. And if I want 1 foot of focus distance, that's where I'm going to set it to. Now let me explain how the focus distance works. So focus distance means if it's set to 1 foot, if my subject is 1 foot away from the camera, it will actually be in focus, or close to being in focus. That's how that works, typically. So let's go ahead and jump to my capture. So if you take a look, I don't know how best to show it, but my hand is about 1 foot away from the camera, and you'll notice that, you know, it's in focus. My hand is about 1 foot away, it might be a little more, but it's in focus. Now, if I move, let me increase my ISO a little bit here. If I move my hand further away, for example, notice it gets out of focus, or if I bring it closer, it's out of focus. Bring it further away, it's in focus. So about a foot away, it's in focus. Now on the lens here, take a look. If I move the ring, let's say to 2 feet, if we can get this here, there we go, 2 feet. That means I have to move my hand 2 feet away for it to be in focus. So I don't know if we'll get it here or not. Let's see. There we go. My hand is about 2 feet away. I'm just trying to frame it. 2 feet away, and my hand is in focus. Look, it's sharp. But if I bring it closer, it goes out of focus. So that's how the focus distance scale works. So if you understood about 50% of that, then we're on our way there. Okay, so that's how the distance scale works. You set it to the distance of your subject. So for example, if we're doing a photograph of Nathan, so let's go ahead and set that up really quick. All right, so I have Nathan Drake here, and it's a little bit hard to see the distance between me and the actual subject, but let's take a look here. Okay, so so from here to here, we're about a foot away. Now, I don't have a ruler with me, unfortunately, which kind of sucks. And you'll notice that on the lens, I have it set to, I don't even know if the little tiny camera can pick it up. I'm on a distance scale of 1 foot away. So if I'm 1 foot away, Nathan Drake will be in focus. Okay, so now I'm trying to demonstrate this here. If I go to, if I change this, whatever's on here, okay, it won't pick it up. If I change my focus distance scale to 1.5 meters, or let's do 2 meters. Let's show that again. Okay. There you go. We're at 2 feet. Sorry, 2 feet, not 2 meters. We're at 2 feet. That means I have to back up away. So if I back up away, adjust my here. There we go. So I'm 2 feet away now. Obviously, you can't see me in the camera from this side, but I backed up further away. I'm 2 feet away. Now, the way that I do this, and the way I kind of handle this in photography, especially with the manual focus lens, is what I do is I pre-focus, okay? It's a concept that you'll learn about with this kind of camera, is you pre-focus. So what I do is I set my distance scale to 1 foot, right? Let's say for example, we're gonna go ahead and take a picture of Nathan. I pre-focus, I say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna set my distance scale to 1 foot. And when I go up to take a picture of Nathan, I'm just gonna move closer in. I don't have to move this ring anymore. I just sway back and forth until Nathan's in focus. So let's take a look here. Let's jump into this. So this is a full mode. Sorry, it's shaky. So what I do is I just get closer and closer to Nathan until I'm 1 foot away. Take a look. That looks good. Reframe, and then take a picture. I might back up a little bit. Take a look. I get closer. That means I'm too close. So I back up a little bit. Take a look. I'm just backing up a little bit. And then finally, he looks like he's in focus. Take the photograph. Let's do that again from this view. So again, I get closer. Notice how he's out of focus. I'm going to back up a little bit until he looks like he's in focus. Let me go ahead and adjust my screen here so I can see it better. And it looks like he's in focus. Boom. Take the picture. And that's it. It's not complicated at all. So if I move my distance scale, or my focus scale to 1.5, I don't know if you can see it from that side there, 1.5, so I've moved it to 1.5, it means this distance will not work anymore, okay? This distance will not work anymore here. So what that means is I'm gonna have to back up to 1.5 feet. So I'm gonna back up. So usually what I do, guys, is, sorry, my audio's gonna cut out. I put it up to my eye, okay? I bring it up to my eye, and I'm looking inside the viewfinder. I can't do it in this example, but I usually use the viewfinder. I'm going in closer so I can see it better. So I'm gonna back up slowly, right? I'm gonna go back up to 1.5 feet. There it is. There it is, boom. Looks good. Take the photograph. Let's play it back. And let's go to full screen capture. There's our image of Nathan Drake. f1.7, we get a lot of shallow depth of field, and we're able to keep our aperture, our ISO low in this particular example. And that's it. That's how you use this particular glass. All right, so I have my stuff set up here. I'm going to show you how to do focus magnification. It is a technique that people do use when they're doing manual focus, or they're using lenses like this, manual focus lenses. It's not the method that I use a lot. I use a different one, which we'll cover next after this. So let's go ahead and take a look. So first of all, we need to go ahead and set up our camera properly. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that on your camera. So I'm going to go to Menu, and then I'm going to go to Custom Settings. That's tab 2. We're going to go to page 1. Now on tab 2, page 1, there's an option called Focus Magnification Time. Go ahead and set that to no limit on your camera. Next, we're going to go ahead and go to the actual focus magnifier option. We're going to go up, go to tab 1. We're going to go to page 5 and look for the keyword focus magnifier. Go ahead and click on this. And then when we do this, what will happen is we'll get a little box. That little box designates where on here will be kind of zoomed in. Now I can move my D-pad on the back of my camera up and down, left and right, and then I'm going to press the center button. So I'm going to move it to Nathan's face, press the center button. It's a little circular button on the back, press into it, and then now you can see him. Now I'm just going to go ahead and manually adjust my focus until it looks sharp. That looks good. Press the shutter button halfway. Press the shutter button halfway like this, and it goes away. Take the picture, and that's it. Now, let's go ahead and do another example here. Let's say, for example, this little lion or tiger, this lion right here is in front. So notice that the focus is still on Nathan because we haven't moved our focus ring. So let's go ahead and use the focus magnifier again. Let's go ahead and press menu. Let's go to camera settings, focus magnifier. Let's move the box to the lion's face. And then press the middle button. Go ahead and press the middle button right there. And then we're going to go ahead and move and rotate this focus ring on the actual lion until we get it really sharp and in focus right there. It looks good. Put the shutter button down all the way. There's our photo. Let's take a look. Okay, now the thing you might be wondering is it takes a lot of work to go and activate the focus magnifier. We can actually set it to a custom setting. So let's jump to that right now. We're going to go to menu. We're going to go to custom settings. We're going to go to page 6. What we're going to do is designate C1 on our camera right here to activate that. So we're going to custom key settings, custom button 1, look for the keyword focus magnifier, and select that one. Once you do that, so let's go ahead and get back to our shooting mode here. Let me go ahead and move this out of the way. Let's say we want Nathan Drake in focus. I'm going to press C1 on my camera. Notice that it activated the focus magnifier. Move the box in front of Nathan's face. Press the center button. Go ahead and adjust my focus. And then, there we go. Take a photograph. Play it back. And that's it. That's how simple and easy it is to set up your focus magnifier. Really easy. I don't use it too often, but it's something that you can definitely take advantage of as well. Alright, so next on our agenda is focus peaking. Now this is the tool and method that I use predominantly when I'm taking photos with this lens, and it makes it really easy for me. Let's go ahead and jump to the view. So let's see here. So on the back of the camera, what am I doing? I don't need this yet. I'm going to press menu on my camera. I'm going to go to custom settings. I'm going to go down to tab 2, page 2, and you're going to see an option called peaking level. And I'm just going to go ahead and set it to high so I can see the little lines dancing on there clearly. Peaking color, I'm going to set it to white so it's easier for me to see. And that's pretty much it. That's all you really have to do. You can activate peaking level. You can just set it to off so it's not on. So let's go ahead and see it in practice. Now I'm going to have to disable my camera. I have to disconnect it in order for you to see it. So we're going to have to look at the top-down view right now. So I'm going to disconnect my camera from there. Let's go ahead and take a look. There it is. There's the camera. And as you can see, you can actually see some lines already forming. These little white lines forming on Nathan right there. That's the focus peaking marks, right? So what I can do is if I rotate it, notice how this line's actually in front of him. I'm going to rotate my dial to the left this way. Sorry, well, to the right, I guess. And notice how when I rotate it, you notice that the focus peaking lines end up on the lion right there. And notice that it's predominantly on the area close to his eye. Usually, once that happens, this is how I handle it. Once I see a predominant amount of those lines, I take a picture. Boom. I move it back, take a look, and good. And then, for example, Link's in the back. Once I see some lines dancing on Link, let's move him here a little bit. There we go. If I see some lines dancing on Link's eye or his body, boom, that looks good. Take a picture. And let's play it back real quick. So there's Link. Back it up a little bit. There's Nathan. And then there's a lion. It's really simple. Let's do that again really quick so you can see it. I know it's a little hard to see. But notice that the line's about 1 foot away. So I set my distance scale to 1 feet. So that's where I'm going to start. Take a picture. Looks like it's in focus. And then I have my shutter button halfway pressed already. So I'm ready to press the shutter button. I rotate it. Boom. Take a picture of Nathan. Picture of Link. Back here. Boom. Nathan. Picture of lion. Boom. That's simple. It's like you just have your hand ready on your shutter button, half down, half pressed, And as soon as I see those dancing lines, I quickly press the shutter button on the actual object, like that. Now, before, remember I said focus peaking is useful too, if you want critical focus. So focus peaking, I would activate this, punch into Nathan's face. Sorry, okay, I can't hold the shutter button halfway up. Activate it, then rotate it, and then that looks good. Then take his picture. See how slow that was? That was actually, it wasn't very fast. But if I use this method right here, I can quickly go ahead and just check and see if I get the little dancing lines on the subject. Boom, photo, dancing lines, the little dancing lines right there on Toon Link or Link, and we're all set to go. And it's that easy. Okay? So that's the method that I use. Occasionally, I will obviously, I typically will have it set up where I have my eye into the camera. And then what I do is I set my minimum focusing distance to 1 meter. Let's see if it gets it there, right? So it's 1 foot. It's set to 1 foot, 0.3 meters. And what I do is I just move closer and closer to my subject. I have it set as soon as I see the dancing lines, boom, I take the photograph, okay? It's that simple. I get closer. Once I see the dancing lines, I take a picture. And then I quickly got my photo and I'm done and I'm out of there. That's the strategy and method that I use. I don't typically use the magnifying unless you need critical focus. So for example, I know it's hard to see here, but I have Nathan Drake here. So what I'll do is I will move in closer to Nathan here and then wait until he's in focus. Then boom, take the picture, faces in focus, take the picture, link, move back in and out. His eyes are in focus, take the picture. So all I'm really doing is I'm moving in and out to show you. Let me plug this in. This is not going to demonstrate the actual focus peaking, but hopefully you can get the vibe that I'm trying to illustrate here. So again, there's my subjects. I'm moving in closer, 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 and then boom, focus. Now I'm on Ling. I move back and forth. Now you should see dancing lines, by the way. If it's not plugged in, I see little dancing lines on there. As soon as I see it, look, I get closer, boom, take the picture. There's the lion. I get closer, boom, take the picture. Get the picture, boom, take the picture, and boom, got the picture. I'm done. It's that simple. It's not complicated at all. So now you have a general understanding of focus peaking. I dove into it a lot because that's the method I'm going to be using. Now let's actually figure out how to take pictures, and let's go through the process and get this all figured out. All right, in order for us to take photographs, there's some steps that I want you to go over. And it's steps that we covered before in the previous 2 videos. There's an order of operation, just like in math. And the first step is to figure out your focal length, typically. Well, see, this is a prime lens, which means it doesn't zoom. So my focal length is 35 millimeters, period. Now, the way I would handle this if I was going to do a portrait session or take portrait photos is I would get the 50 millimeter prime lens that I have here. So I would switch to this one. It's a 50 millimeter prime lens. It'll work a lot better for portraits on an APS-C body. Then I determine my aperture. So let me go ahead and jump to the camera view here so you can see it. Okay, so when we want a shallow background, notice here, guys, the f-stop, there's no dot, there's no information. And there's no information because there's no electronic chips. Everything is being done manually now. You're going to have to change these values on your own on the actual lens, which isn't a big deal. So here we are. There's the camera. Let me move it forward a little bit. There we go. And what I do is determine my aperture. So let's say we're taking a portrait picture of Nathan. Let's start with Nathan here. So Nathan's right there. And we want to get a portrait photo of Nathan. Now what I do is I determine my focal length. So I'm at 1.7. I'm at 35 millimeters. Not going to change. Let's next go ahead and set our aperture. So let me mess up my settings a little bit here for the sake of this. And then we're going to set our aperture to 1.7. Notice how it gets brighter. Now we're going to go ahead and set our focus distance scale as close as possible. So let's say, for example, we know that when we take Nathan's photograph, Nathan's going to be about 1 foot away. So I'm going to go ahead and move my focus distance scale to go to 1. Let's move it there. Now it's set to 1. Now, by the way, it doesn't mean it's exactly at 1. It just means 1 is a smart thing. For example, what if we set it to 10 feet, right? So 10. Why in the world would we set it to 10 if we know we're not going to be 10 feet away from Nathan? It's only going to make us focusing much more difficult for us. So we want to plan ahead. All right, so here we go. Finally, let's go ahead and take a look at shutter speed. Now our shutter speed should be 1 over the focal length of the lens. This is a 35mm lens. There is no 35, so we're going to round up to 40. So we're at the minimum shutter speed that we should be at for this photograph. And then finally, we're going to take a look at our ISO. We're going to adjust our ISO. That looks good to me. And I think, sorry, I didn't fix this earlier. I apologize on step C, which moved this to 1 foot away. There we go. So now we're all set. We have all our settings designated and figured out. And now what I do is I just bring the camera closer. That's it. Now I have focus peaking activated technically. I just reframe, rule of thirds, take the photograph, and that's it. That's all it is. It's really simple. All right, so now let's say we're gonna do a group photo. We've done this example before in the past. So let's say we got his lion friend right there. His lion friend's a little behind him, okay? His lion friend's a little behind him. So we're doing a group photo. We know that we need to set our aperture value to a much larger value to get everyone in focus. f1.7 is not going to work. So let's just use f1.7 right now. Let me adjust my focus till Nathan's in focus there. Take a photograph. Play it back. Notice that the line is out of focus and Link is out of focus. Let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go ahead and set our aperture value to a much higher value. So let me go ahead and botch my settings again. So let's say we're starting from the beginning, right? Let me just kind of botch all the settings in general so it's fair. So let's start over. We're going to take a group picture. So we're going to go ahead and start with our focal length, which is 35mm. We can't change it. The step 2 is go ahead and set a proper aperture value. So if I want everyone kind of in focus, especially the lion, I'm going to go ahead and move this diamond to f8. Let's go ahead and set it up. There it is. Now it's lined up to about 8. Next, we're going to go ahead and determine our focus distance scale. Again, they're about 1 foot away, so I'm going to rotate this ring to about 1 foot away. That's where we'll start. Now let's go ahead and figure out our minimum shutter speed, which is going to be 1 over the focal length of the lens, which is 35, but we can't. We're going to go up 1. And then finally, we're going to adjust our ISO so that exposure looks good. And that looks pretty good to me. Let me go ahead and tweak my focus just a little bit here. Again, I can't see the focus peaking, so I can't really judge this very well. And let me go to full. All right, it's the best it's going to get. And then now we have Nathan Drake in focus. We have the tiger, or the lion in focus as well. Now, if you really wanted to get Link in focus, we would have to do some serious compensation to the ISO. But let's just try it anyway for the sake of this tutorial. Let's go ahead and go to f22. I'm going to have to bump up my ISO up, take a photograph, play it back. There we go. Everyone's sort of in focus at f22. Notice that the information says f0.0. It's not going to tell us that, but our ISO is pretty high. Okay, and that's it. That's the scenario for indoor shooting. It's pretty simple. Just keep in mind that I was using focus peaking in order to see what I was photographing. Hey guys, so we're back outside here. We're going to be doing some outdoor pictures using the Meike 35 f1.7, and I've got Nathan out here again. He's kind of our test subject that we're going to be using for this example. And our goal is to use a manual focus lens with a manual aperture to take pictures. So we're going to use the same steps that we did before. Number 1, we're going to go ahead and set our focus length, which is 35mm. This is the Meike 35. We can't change it, so we're stuck on that. The next thing we're going to do is set our focal length distance, our focal distance. So on the actual lens, we're going to go ahead and set it to 1 feet on the actual lens itself. And then after that, we're going to determine our aperture. So since we're doing a portrait of a person, we want to set our aperture value to a low number. So in this case, 1.7, that's the maximum aperture on the lens. So I'm going to go ahead and set it to 1.7 on the actual lens. And we're almost there. We're almost there. The next thing we're going to look at is setting a minimum shutter speed that we need to take a photograph. Since this is a 35mm lens, we're going to set it to 1 over 40. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So it's 1 over 40 on my camera. And then we're going to take a look at ISO. So right now the exposure looks really bright, so If you can come in a little bit closer, you can kind of see what I'm going to do. My exposure is still really bright, so I'm going to go ahead and drop my ISO down to 100, and my image is still bright. So I have a problem right now. So my shutter speed is at 1/4 of a second, but there's no penalty in me increasing my shutter speed. So I'm going to increase my shutter speed until I get the proper exposure. So now my shutter speed is at 1/3200th of a second. The exposure looks good. Let me go ahead and move in. And by the way, this is the technique that I was talking about before, is that I already have my focus distance set to 1 feet. So all I'm going to do is just move closer into my subject back and forth until I get the proper framing. There we go. And that was it. So you can take a look at the example photo. It was really simple to do. That's all I had to set up with the photograph. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the manual focus lens tutorial. If you got about 50% of it, you're on your way there. I highly recommend that you read some more literature and look at some other content online to help teach yourself a little bit more about what's going on, because there's some topics I didn't cover. Now, if you got a lot of value out of this tutorial, consider using my Amazon affiliate link if you decide to buy this Meike lens. It's a global link, so it should work for most people out there around the world. I get a little kickback from that support. If you want to be more supportive, consider making a small donation via PayPal. If you have any more ideas for videos you'd like for me to do, consider leaving a comment in the comment section below and letting me know what that idea is. And if you want to catch any videos that you missed, just click somewhere on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget again to like the video, favorite, and share it with a few of your friends. I'd really appreciate it. And with that said, I'm your host, That One Camera Guy, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.